So as I bump my table, welcome back to the Music and Moonsaults channel here on YouTube. I am your host, as always, Chris Bourdine, and we are doing the Wrestling Wayback Machine today. We're not going that far back, though, today. Today we're only going a handful of years, 5 to be exact. We're going to cover the Royal Rumble 2016 today, and I've got Matt Durr coming back on. He was on the first 2 months on this show with me, so he's coming back, and he's going to help me break this down. There was a major debut that happened on this show 5 years ago this month, and we're going to talk about it. So before Matt gets here, why don't you go ahead and click the little thumbs up button right down below on the video, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment if you so desire, and follow me on Twitter. Ivan as Chris on Twitter. That's where I'm at most of the time. That's where I like to interact with people and just talk stupid wrestling or music stuff with people. So yeah, it's a good time. But hope everyone had a great new year, and a safe one at that. And yeah, we're into 2021. Woohoo. So yeah, I think that's it. Give me a second, and we will bring Matt on, and we will talk about Royal Rumble 2016. The Sean to my Marty, the Hawk to my Animal, the Ricky to my Robert. Matt Durr, how are we doing today?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Sun's shining.
Appreciate
today.
you having me back on again.
We got some sunshine in the wintertime. Like, it's all good. It's all gravy.
Yeah, no snow on the ground. They'll take it.
Yeah. So, no, I appreciate you coming back on. So, as I said, today we are covering the 2016 Royal Rumble, which happened on January 24th, 2016 from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. Matt, as someone who hates everything WWE of the last decade, what did you think of the show watching it back?
I think it's a show that it's like the epitome of why I have had a problem with WWE for so long. There's so much potential on this show, and then the execution is just so bad.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it with the matches, but you look at that card is loaded.
When I texted you about it, and I just like not remembering anything other than the finish to the Rumble and the major debut that happens on this show, I really didn't remember too much else about it. But I looked at the card and I'm like, oh wow, this might not be too bad.
Right. And I would say everything up until the Rumble match itself was really it met expectations, or in some cases exceeded expectations for me. So I'm excited to talk about it though, either way.
Yeah. So we kick off the show. JoJo, remember her? She the limo pulls up with Vince and Stephanie, and she interviews him. Vince has aged a lot in the last 5 years.
First thing I thought.
I saw him. I'm like, this can't be only like this. Looks like it's 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, compared to what he looks now. Like, he looks so old now. Like, obviously he was old then too, but not like deathbed old.
His age has caught up to him.
Yes.
We'll put it like that, because it's going to happen to all of us.
But we did see a little bit of the condescending Mr. McMahon that we all know and love when he ducks down to kind of get on JoJo's level. I chuckled.
Yeah, there's a lot of little moments throughout this show where little things happen that just like popped me that I completely forgot about, and that was totally one of them.
Our first match is for the Intercontinental. Let me try that again. Intercontinental title. The champion Dean Ambrose defending against Kevin Owens in a last man standing match. So what immediately struck me is Dean looks a lot smaller than current day John Moxley. He looks really skinny compared to what Moxley looks jacked today. I mean, he was not that he wasn't jacked then, but he just is very skinny on this show.
Yeah, I wonder too if it's an issue of like the guys in AEW now are not nearly as big. So when he's on screen in comparison, he looks a lot smaller than the majority of the roster.
Yeah. I know we've talked before. Last man standing matches aren't necessarily either one of our cups of tea, but I thought this was a decent one. It wasn't bad. What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought both guys, they did some innovative things for the last man standing. If you know anything about their histories, like it doesn't surprise me that they did something a little different. The cannonball into the guardrail or through the rail. Like I don't remember seeing it before that, and now it's kind of become commonplace. But when you think back 5 years ago, like that move, it really, it stood out. Going back to the start of the match, what really surprised me, and is going to be a theme for me going out, is the reaction that both of these guys got. When their music hit, the crowd popped. They were excited to see these guys.
Yes.
And I don't know that was the case. Yeah, both guys. And when you go back and watch throughout the show, especially the Rumble, when certain guys come out, there's little to no reaction. And these guys clearly had identified with the crowd, and the crowd wanted more of them.
Yeah, you could tell, like, I think KO always has gotten good reactions, whether he's been a babyface or a heel, when there's crowds. But especially I think him, and then later on in the Rumble, guys like Sammy, I think because of they were in Orlando, where a lot of these guys spent quite a bit of time in NXT, and you got to imagine a lot of those 200 or so fans that they can fit into Full Sail were probably at this show too. So
probably, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of, like you said, Kevin is like the king of trash talk in the middle of matches. He's hilarious. But Dean ends up winning after he pushes Kevin off the top rope through 2 tables that Kevin had stacked on the outside.
Yep.
Gets the 10 count. So, decent, like I said, pretty good opening match.
It was a little long for me for a last man standing match. You and I, when we did the Survivor Series episode, I complained the same thing about Flair and Triple H. Yeah. It's just with matches like that, I just want to get to the big spot and get it over with, because that's how they always end. It's never any different.
Right.
And that's my only gripe about this match, is just you don't have to pay attention to any of the action until something major happens. Yes. And that's what hurts it for me.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Next up, we have the New Day, who are the tag team champions, defending against the Usos. Here's the big debut I was referring to, the debut of Francesca 2.
I completely forgot that this is where that all came from.
I forgot that, because in actuality, I was just thinking about, I was like, when did Francesca 2, like earlier this week, I was thinking about that, and then I watched it. And I totally forgot that Jericho was the one that killed Francesca 1. So,
yeah.
New Day they're in the middle of their record tag title reign, and they're still playing mostly heel, but you could tell the crowd is starting to turn the tide. They're really getting with them on their stick, and they come out and they want to have a moment of silence for Francesca 1, and then all of a sudden you hear Woods blowing on Francesca 2, and he walks out, and everyone's happy because yay, everyone's back together, and and then it's weird seeing this version of the Usos now. Like, it was only a few months after this when they switched into the Usos of today. So seeing them in the face paint and all that, the bright colors, it's like, wow, it's kind of like they've done so much in the 5 years since that it kind of makes you forget about that a little bit. But I can these two teams have a bad match?
No, I don't think so. And this is what I was talking about with the potential. For years people have said the tag division in WWE is terrible, and I think for the most part it is. But those two teams, that rivalry, that feud, is, I hope, is looked at, in a few years as being as classic as we look at like the Hardys and the Edge and Christian and the Dudleys.
Yes,
it's that good.
Yes.
You're right. They don't have bad matches, and that match did not feel like any other Usos New Day match that I can recall off the top of my head. Especially the finish, with all kind of the chaos going on.
I literally jumped out of my seat at the finish because this is the first time I've watched this pay-per-view since it happened. When so what happens is Jimmy goes to hit the Uso splash, not knowing Big E has made the blind tag, and Big E catches him in midair and hits the big ending. It was awesome. Yeah. It was timed perfectly.
So good.
It was fantastic. And I just
and what I loved about that match too is all 5 guys got their stuff in, quote unquote. Even though Woods wasn't in the match, there were parts where they clearly allowed him to do the Francesca stuff outside. The part that got me is when they're chanting for him to play it, and he goes, no, I play what I want to. Like, that's so good. And then like later he goes to do it, and Kofi gets hit, and the womp womp.
Yeah.
It just, even though he's not in the match, he got his stuff in, and it made him a bigger star. And that's it's so well done, well done.
Yeah. So New Day retain the tag team titles. There's a Wyatt family backstage promo. Then we got Alberto Del Rio, who is the United States champion, defending against Kalisto. I gotta be honest, I really didn't pay that much attention to this match, just because I don't know. It's Del Rio. Just kind of, he never did it for me in the first place, and then knowing what we know about him, behind the scenes now, it's even more of a, I just don't care about this guy. Get him off my screen. Deal.
Yeah. It's Del Rio. Del Rio was one of those guys to me that I liked the stuff he did until the bell rang.
Yes.
And then it was the same stuff all the time, and it was kind of boring. And when I said earlier that matches exceeded my expectations, this match actually exceeded my expectation. Right. But it wasn't like I didn't enjoy it. You know what I mean? I came in thinking it was going to be awful.
Yes.
Because I just remember that era. Wasn't this when he was in the middle? Del Rio was in the middle of, like, he was paintbrushing Kalisto and beating up on the luchadors all the time.
I think so.
Yeah. I can't remember if this is the same storyline, but in my head, that's when what was going on, and I just wasn't interested.
I'm pretty sure that was part of the story coming in. But Kalisto actually wins the title. He hits Del Rio with a Selena Del Sol and gets the 1-2-3 to become the new United States champion. So. Next, we get a backstage segment with Stephanie and Paul Heyman, and these two have this crazy good chemistry when they're on the screen together. Like, it shouldn't be, but it's so the way Heyman comes in and kind of like tries to butter up Stephanie with compliments, and Stephanie's like completely disgusted by it. He's like, "What do you want? Get out of my face." So good.
Yeah, I don't feel like they're acting. I really don't. No. I think it's literally the script says Paul enters the room, acts like Paul Heyman, Stephanie reacts, and go.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get so we have Charlotte with Ric Flair in her corner. She is the Divas champion versus Becky Lynch. Again, it's kind of hard for these two to have a bad match against each other. This one isn't quite to the level of what they would do, just a couple years ago, but it's still pretty good. And Charlotte retains because Rick throws his suit jacket in the ring while Becky's has Charlotte in the disarmor and distraction. Charlotte hits a spear and retains. So yeah, not great, but not terrible at all either. So nice little match.
Yeah, it was sloppy at some points.
Yeah.
And I noticed throughout the night there were some spots where some of the NXT crew, there was some sloppiness there, but that's like a minor criticism. I thought it was a really good match, especially when you consider like at this time we weren't used to seeing competitive, women's title matches that went for more than 5 or 6 minutes. So I think they got like 10 or 12 and told a pretty good story. I like that the Charlotte wasn't so enthused about having her dad around all the time, but would always end up needing him to win a big match. So I thought it was great.
Yes. Yeah. And then post-match, Sasha comes out, and she dumps Becky out of the ring to kind of fool Charlotte into thinking she was going to be on her side. And then as Charlotte goes to leave out of the ring, Sasha does the backstabber and puts on the deepest bank statement I think I've ever seen. She's trying to break Charlotte in half.
Well, she bent so far back, Charlotte could wrap her legs around her head.
Yes.
Like, crazy.
Yeah.
And going back to the whole listen to the pop, when Sasha's music hits, that place goes nuts.
Yes.
They're louder for Sasha than they were for Charlotte or Becky when they came out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Sasha was one of those ones, as you know, I'm like, why do they not do more with her at this time? And the crowd was clearly had a thirst to see more of her.
Yes, for sure. So then we're to the main the reason why we're here, the Royal Rumble match. So the story coming in is Seth Rollins hurt his knee in November on an overseas tour. So they had a little mini tournament for the title. And the finals, I believe, were Roman and Dean at Survivor Series, which Roman won, but then Sheamus, who had Money in the Bank, cashed in and won the title. And then I think they had a rematch at TLC, which Sheamus also won, and I think Roman won the title back on Raw, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. But in the process, the Authority are, trying to keep the belt away from Roman. Roman at one point, Superman punches Vince off the apron, and that really has them, gunning for him. So they make him defend the WWE title in the Royal Rumble, and they make him enter at number 1. Which, if it's a babyface, people actually wanted to be a babyface. I think this is a really good story. But at the time, and actually, I gotta be honest, this crowd wasn't nearly as hostile towards Roman as what I was expecting.
Yeah, it's. I feel like this is right at the time where it turns really bad, and it's things like what happened over the next few months that I think are really what turned the heart. But it's there. It's clearly there that people don't like him and don't want him to win.
Right.
I mean, when he makes his entrance, there's even a sign that says, "If Reigns wins, we riot."
Right. Well,
so,
yeah, but that also is the standard. That's 10 years at this point is the standard sign. Because Extreme Rules All 6 was the famous "If Cena wins, we riot" sign. So, or One Night Stand. Did I say Extreme?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess my point is, no one since Cena to that point had really gotten that kind of reaction when they're a babyface. Yes. You're supposed to like this guy, and people are not just falling in line like they're supposed to. So, yeah, it was definitely the middle of that era.
So Roman's number 1, and entrant number 2 is Rusev, who's part of the League of Nations with Sheamus and Del Rio and Wade Barrett. And they battle, but Roman ends up tossing Rusev out pretty quickly, just in time for the countdown for entrant number 3. and I'm glad they fixed it on the network. The camera shot, because if you remember, they missed it, kind of like they did Edge's first spear this past year. When AJ Styles makes his WWE debut at number 3 in the Royal Rumble, and I'm pretty sure live they had it on a crowd shot when he first walks out from Gorilla. And
I thought they had it on the screen where it says "I am phenomenal," and then they cut to Roman. Is how I remembered it. Because I know on the network, all they do is they just show Roman's face the whole time.
Yeah,
which is the stupidest thing in the world.
Right. So this was a huge deal for me.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, even going back earlier this month, Wrestle Kingdom 10, I believe it was.
No, it would have. Yeah, it would have been 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm at your house. I think the day after Wrestle Kingdom, something like that. And we're watching Wrestle Kingdom. And that's the year that he had the great match with Shinsuke for the IC title. And there must have been like a Toru Yano match or something. Something I didn't care about was on. And I'm scrolling Twitter, and I remember looking over at you and like, holy crap. And you're like, what? And I'm like, it looks like AJ, Gallows, Anderson, and Shinsuke are all coming over to WWE. And you're like, no way. And so it was like a big thing for like the next 3 weeks or whatever it was. Like, is AJ actually going to be at the Rumble? And sure enough, he was.
Yeah, I remember at the time there was no confirmation or anything. Like they hadn't announced any of the signings.
They ran a article on WWE.com like, oh, the rumors are these guys are coming to WWE.
Right, but if you remember, Gallows and Anderson finished out a tour in Japan.
Yeah.
I think Shinsuke did too. And AJ was the only one that the Bullet Club kicked him out at New Year's Dash.
New Year's Dash, yeah,
but it was up in the air that he was coming to WWE for sure. Yeah. Like no one knew for sure.
Right. Yeah, because Shinsuke didn't debut until the takeover the night before Mania.
Yep.
And then I think Gallows and Anderson debuted the night after WrestleMania.
Yep.
So. But yeah, AJ Styles, and they tease a Styles Clash spot on Roman. But yeah, it was so cool. This was the guy that I was a fan of, that I didn't think there was any chance in hell would ever get to the WWE, because I just didn't think he was their type of guy.
Yeah.
And I'm happy I was wrong, because I was pretty excited about it.
The minute he walks out there, he cemented his status as one of the all-time greats.
Mm-hmm.
The minute he goes out there and he made the move, he got to WWE. It validated everything else that happened. Yeah. And then in the 5 years since, all he's done is add to his legacy. Where you could make the argument he's a top 10 performer of all time.
And to his credit, this is going to sound like a knock because of how we feel about current stuff sometimes, but in the 5 year set, like he feels like a WWE guy now, and I mean that in the best way possible. Like he feels like he should have been here all along, or like he has been here all along, type of thing.
Yeah, I could see that. Current stuff aside, since he's come in, all he's done is have like really good matches with everybody that he gets paired with. And that sounds so easy to say. All he's done is just been phenomenal since he came in.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of his WWE stuff has lived up to his work in Japan and TNA and Impact. But he's still been incredible. Like that's how good this guy is.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you could make the argument he could do more in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he could have. I know he's 5 years older than he was when he came in. But.
And he's one of the rare guys who, and I know like I know the argument is going to be because, TNA is TNA and New Japan's on the other side of the world. But he's one of the few guys that has made their a name that big elsewhere, and has actually been like, there hasn't been a time in the last 5 years where I've been like, man, they're really screwing AJ up. Like, he's been, since he came in, I think the first couple months was a little, kind of feeling him out. But then right after WrestleMania, he goes into a 2-month program with Roman. And then after that, it's Cena. And ever since then, he's either been in the world title picture or doing something that matters on the show. So
and he's even said those first couple months he was super nervous, and I forget who he gives credit to, but he said someone pulled him aside and was like, "You've got to be you. You got to quit trying to." It might have been Jericho that was just like, you got to stop trying to be what you think they want you to be, and just be what got you here. And sure enough, he changed it around a little bit, and he's been the man since then. I would say in the last 5 years, he's been the best in-ring performing consistently in that company.
Oh yeah,
and I don't even know that it's close, to be honest.
Because Brian's retired at this time, and he doesn't come back for another 2 years. So
and even that, he wasn't on fire, and Brock has never been an in-ring guy, and Seth and Roman and Dean, Kevin Owens, none of those guys have had like the sort of matches that AJ has had.
Yeah.
So
no, I won't disagree with you there. So number 4 is Tyler Breeze, and this is kind of so we do this was a jobber liberties is what this felt like to me, because Tyler Breeze, I love him, but he's Tyler Breeze, and he was coming in and hitting spinning heel kicks on Roman and AJ, and so he comes in.
Do you want to explain what jobber liberties are?
Yes. So Matt and his group of friends that he had from where he lived before we met have a list of rules in case you want to partake in a Royal Rumble drinking game. And there's a bunch of them. But one of them is, and you have to tell me what the penalty is, but because I don't remember. But jobber liberties is when a guy who is not, I would say, either mid-card and lower in status comes in and tries to flex on the upper mid to main event guys.
It's when you see a guy later in the match, like Titus O'Neil comes in and he's throwing backbreakers to Jericho and AJ Styles, and that's a jobber liberty. That's a guy who has no business laying his hands on the top guys, and they're using that Rumble spot to get some highlight. And I know I've since learned that that's part of the way they build the Rumble is, hey, we want to get some guys that maybe are lesser known. Let them get in there and do some damage to a big name to give them some, some of the rub, as they say. So, yes, the penalty was 1 drink.
Okay.
When the guy comes in at the beginning, because they always do that spot where everyone feeds to him.
Yeah.
And then after that, if you catch Tyler Breeze hitting the kick on Triple H later in the match, that's a jobber liberty. You got to take a drink.
Okay. All right. There you go. Curtis Axel is number 5. He had been in the Royal Rumble for a year.
Yeah.
Because he never was eliminated the year before. The aforementioned Chris Jericho was at number 6. Kane was at number 7. Goldust number 8. Ryback number 9. He feels like he's been gone for 8 years.
I groaned when that music. I went, ugh. No. And then he's in there. He's in there way longer than he should be. Ugh, that guy.
And then we get Kofi at 10, Titus O'Neil at 11, R-Truth at 12, and R-Truth does his
so good.
His confused R-Truth spot where he pulls out a ladder and brings it in the ring and goes to climb it and realizes, oh, it's not a ladder match, it's a Royal Rumble.
He gets to the top and he goes, who moved the briefcase?
Yeah.
So good. So good.
That man.
And part of me wonders, like, when I watched that, I was like, man, I wonder what his payday was to go out to the ring that day, pull a ladder out, climb up, and then get thrown over the top rope. Like, part of me really hopes he got like 10 grand just to do that.
Yeah. He's, man, talk about longevity. He's found a way to just hang on and just be around.
Yeah.
And then we also get the Kofi spot around this time too, where he gets knocked off the apron and right onto Big E's shoulders, and then him and Woods parade him around the outside of the ring on Big E's shoulders, and then he gets in there and gets immediately eliminated anyway. But
he stopped and got a Coke from a fan. He was eating popcorn on the outside.
Yes.
So good.
Yes. Luke Harper. So normally when you and I get together to watch older Royal Rumbles, there's always, especially the older, not even that old, like 15-year-old Rumbles, and it's like, man, there's, X amount of guys that aren't with us anymore. That really sucks, and I wouldn't have expected one from 5 years ago to include that, but we just lost Luke Harper a couple weeks back, and so it was kind of surreal to see him here.
Yeah, this is the first wrestling match of his I've seen since he passed.
Yeah. So
it was just kind of like, and I found myself for long stretches just focusing on what he was doing. Because as I've said to you, he wasn't like, I'm not going to pretend like he was a guy that I fawned over and was one of my guys. But I was just like, man, I just want to watch him. I just want to see what they, and then like an idiot. Now I'm like, man, he really was really solid for a guy that size. And it did feel kind of good though too to watch him in there working with all those guys, and there's a couple people that are coming out soon that he would go on to have some really good matches with down the road, and it was just kind of nice to see that.
Yeah. So around the time that Harper comes out, Vince brings out the League of Nations, and they pull Roman underneath the bottom rope and attack him, and Rusev does a big splash through the announce table on him, and he gets stretchered off. So it's like, we're going to have a brand new WWE champion, everybody.
This is where the Rumble match just goes, like, nosedives right into the ground for me. Everything after this is just like, I just know I'm not going to be pleased with how it plays out.
Right.
And just, if you remember at this time, I don't think Sheamus or Rusev or Del Rio were anybody. They were, they were just like, they were generic foreign bad guy heel. Like it was 1986 and we're feeding Hogan again. It was so brutal.
Yeah.
And just like seeing it again for the, for the first time in a few years, it was just like, man, it's still really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so 14 is Stardust. 15 is Big Show. 16 is Neville. 17 is Braun Strowman. 18 is Kevin Owens. And I loved how much he was selling from the match earlier in the night. Limping
what a concept.
Limping all the way to the ring. And then he gets in and he eliminates AJ Styles. So...
Yeah. And then he proceeds to do what Kevin Owens does better than anybody, like you said, trash talk in the ring, and he throws out the arms. Mm-hmm. He's just doing what Kevin does. It was so good.
Yeah, he's great.
He like claps at him and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's such a jerk, but it's so fantastic.
Mm-hmm. 19, his opponent from earlier, Dean Ambrose. So I liked how they had those guys back to back. And then 20, Sami Zayn, which we mentioned earlier, and he gets a massive pop. He probably gets the biggest pop out of anyone besides AJ in the Rumble.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, number 30 gets a really big pop.
Oh, yeah, you're
At
right.
least from the crowd and the audience.
Yes.
I didn't.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But
and I don't know if you remember when we watched this show together, when Sami Zayn came out and it was Sammy and Kevin in the middle of the ring. I had my AJ Styles reaction you know, that you had, where I freaked out. I was just, finally, this match is happening in the WWE ring. I was like thrilled for it.
Yeah,
so.
you were. Yeah,
and then you think too, like those guys grew up together. Well, they didn't grow up, but came up together to have that moment.
Together.
Brother, yeah. And to have that moment at the Royal Rumble, like, you know, on the inside they were fanboying out.
Oh yeah,
and rightfully so.
Yeah, and then Sammy gets the better of Kevin and ends up eliminating him. So, and then I think they're in the IC ladder match at Mania, and I think that whole summer is when they have that feud where they I think they have like 3 or 4 straight pay-per-view matches or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, that Battleground match is
yes,
specifically, it's just like, you guys have gold here if you use these two properly, and I would argue in the 5 years since they haven't really capitalized on it, which goes along with my theme for the show, and we're going to get there.
Right. I will say, I know you're not watching right now, the heel Sami Zayn that he's got working right now is fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen the clips on Twitter, and you know the stuff he's doing. Like, why did it take so long? Why did it take so long to find something really good for this guy?
Yeah. So then we get Eric Rowan, and this is the 3 members of the Wyatt family that are in the match. They start to dominate. Mark Henry comes out, then Brock Lesnar, followed by Jack Swagger, The Miz, Del Rio at 26. I believe by the time Bray comes out at 27, Brock has eliminated like all the other members of the Wyatt family by himself, because on the go home edition of Raw, they had attacked Brock
and Roman.
So that was the story going in.
Real quick, I want to go back just for 2 seconds and make 2 points. When Swagger comes to the ring and stands off with Lesnar, I don't know why I don't remember. How did they never do anything with the two of them when they're in the? You've got an All-American D1 wrestler, and then you've got a national champion wrestler in the company. You could have done something once.
Because by that time, and I know Brock had been back for 4 years or whatever, but even still, by that time they had damaged Swagger so much that that it wouldn't have. If they would have,
but that's kind of my point. Right. Is like, again, you had potential to do something that would have been a better storyline than every Brock match that we got for the last 6 years of Brock arrive, Brock smash, Brock leave. And then I will also point out at this point, 9 people that are in this Rumble are now working for AEW.
I was going to eventually make that point too.
Which is it's really weird to think that 5 years ago, a third of the Royal Rumble is now in a completely different wrestling company.
Yeah.
In the United States, it's on TV and doing pay-per-view. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. So yeah, Bray comes in, and the Wyatts they kind of hang around outside after they're eliminated, and then they all come in and I'm watching all this go down, and this is where I was like perplexed. How do they get from this to Dean being the WrestleMania match for Brock, and Bray has nothing to do except for get his ass kicked by The Rock in like 30 seconds at the end of the night?
I was hoping we could do a little fantasy booking after we recap the Rumble to kind of talk about that and what they could have done. It makes no sense. They wasted so much time building this up, and there was never a payoff for it.
No. So Ziggler comes in at 28. Sheamus is 29, and this is when Roman comes back, makes his miraculous comeback. It was kind of cool though.
Miraculous.
Right. It was kind of cool how he came flying out of the side of the screen out of nowhere and hit Sheamus with a Superman punch in the aisleway, while Sheamus was on his way to the ring. And then Triple H, as you said, was number 30. And you're right. Yeah, he got a pretty big. He got the Papa H pop from Orlando. We lost your video, bud. There we go.
I'm back.
Okay.
Someone tried calling me.
Gotcha. So yeah, and so our final four, once we get down to it, are Triple H, Sheamus, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. Roman eliminates Sheamus, and then Triple H eliminates Roman. And then eventually Triple H eliminates Dean Ambrose to become a 14-time WWE champion. Go ahead.
I was gonna let you take the lead since it's your show.
Got nothing. I got nothing.
Okay, so at this point, we've already established people don't like Roman in this era, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could have trotted out just about anybody in that spot that was a legitimate threat to take Roman out, and they would have got a huge reaction, and people would have been happy with it, right? Why does that have to be Hunter? Why? Like, the guy with the golden shovel that everyone is like, all he does is bury people, then you're going to bring him out to be the savior on Roman Reigns. You've got no chance of making another star out of this. You've got no chance of really moving the needle long term, because we know Triple H isn't going to be around all year. And it was clear when he won, oh, well, then Roman's going to get the belt back at Mania. What do I care about this title match now? It completely ruined the main event of WrestleMania at the Royal Rumble. It takes a lot of skill to do that.
Right. The only thing that I could think of why they did this, and is that this is what they did. They brought in guys they fed Roman guys that they thought, well, for sure they're going to cheer Roman over this guy.
Yeah.
And it never worked.
And then it didn't work. Yeah.
Well, because yes, is Triple H a great heel when he wants to be? Yes. But he also at this point has 20 years of goodwill built up with the fans. He's got a ton of goodwill with the fans that hate Roman Reigns are the fans that adore Triple H because of what he's had done to this point and continues to do with NXT.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to work. Proven. So we were at a Raw the following, the next month in February. I think
it was 3 or 4 weeks after this event.
I think it was the Raw after Fastlane. Because the Fastlane pay-per-view was in Cleveland, and I think it was the next night.
Yeah. You're right. Because Dean shows up at the arena and gets beat up by Brock. Yeah.
Right. The show ends with Triple H beating the holy hell out of Roman Reigns. And that place was going nuts. And not in
the Raw you're talking about.
Yeah, at Raw. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That Raw ends with Triple H beating the holy hell out of bloodying him up and everything. Mm-hmm. And that, myself included, was going nuts for Triple H.
Yeah, I was too. But to my point of, it doesn't help anyone long term. It wasn't going to make Triple H any bigger of a star, and it wasn't going to get Roman over.
Right.
So I said I wanted to do a little fantasy booking. I'll make it super, super quick.
Yeah.
What if in the first match of the night, shout out to Pat Patterson.
Yes.
What if it's Dean that loses that match, right? So Dean is no longer the Intercontinental Champion. Kevin Owens goes into the Rumble match as IC champ, whatever. And you still do the final two the way it is. But instead of Roman sitting on the outside of the ring, sulking after he got screwed and going to the back, what if Roman comes in and screws Triple H and Dean wins the world title, right? And then you go to Fastlane and Triple H can say, I didn't get a fair shot, I deserve, and you have Dean beat Triple H. And then your main event at WrestleMania is Dean Ambrose versus Roman Reigns. Roman has already beat Dean before. You can do a full build of Shield Brotherhood. You could still do Brock and Bray. You could do Kevin and Sammy for the IC title. You could have built 3 matches out of just separating this terrible storyline from just being about, let's get Roman over. It would have been so much better. And I also forgot to point out, I hated that after the Wyatt family screwed Brock, he just walked to the back with Paul Heyman after the Wyatt family had left.
Right.
So Bray is in the ring by himself after the Wyatt family has screwed him. And Brock Lesnar just goes, oh, well, let's go to the back.
Yep.
Makes no sense whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Time to get on the plane, Paul.
Yeah, like this is the whole why do baby faces always have to look like morons in these situations? Like Roman and Brock both just took it. It makes no sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. Can't argue with that at all. So no,
good.
You can't. I mean, you can. I mean,
no, it was just that, like, when I watched it, and especially after I saw what they did with Brock, and then it got me thinking, like, why would they shift to Dean? And it was kind of like, well, Dean doesn't have anything post Mania, and Brock doesn't want to work with Bray. Well, what if you would have just let Dean get the belt, and that wouldn't even have been you could have taken it out of the equation and just told Brock, look, you're going to work with him whether you want to or not.
Right.
And we're going to do something with two young guys in the main event of Mania as opposed to Triple H again.
Or even if you insist on Triple H being involved, because this is when he's still, I got to work my one match a year, make it a triple threat. Throw Dean in there and make it a triple threat. You know, that way you don't.
And then you.
Because then you don't know if Roman for sure, like you said, you know what's going to happen. Roman's going to beat Triple H and win the title at WrestleMania. Well, if you throw Dean in there, especially, I mean, just a couple months after WrestleMania, Dean wins the title anyway. Like,
right.
So.
Well, and then you could have also done when Seth Rollins got injured. Who was his buddy? Triple H. You could have done a triple threat match, and then you could have brought Seth back into the fold as the guy who knows the two Shield guys better than anybody, and he gives Triple H an upper hand. You want to give Roman his uphill climb that they loved to do with him at that time. It would have been so much better than Triple H wins the belt for the 14th time, squashes Dean, and then just goes to Mania.
Yeah.
Because if you remember that Mania match, the crowd is dead. They don't care.
Well, yeah,
at all.
Well, it's the classic Triple H match because it's way too long. That's my biggest, and I consider myself more of a Triple H guy than most people. That's my one critique, especially later years. Triple H is I gotta have my time to tell my story. My time.
Well, it's right in his theme song.
Yeah. So his is way too long. That show in and of itself was way too long.
The WrestleMania.
The WrestleMania was way too long. I remember like that's the first WrestleMania where they're like, yeah, we're just gonna go for 6 hours,
7 hours,
because like the Rock Cena Wyatt segment didn't start until like at 11 o'clock, and I'm like, wait a minute, like we still got a main event yet. What are we doing here?
Yeah, well,
so that didn't help it at all either, because it was at, you know, they had already seen Shane jump off the top of Hell in a Cell, and once you see that, like,
yeah, what do you do after that to get the crowd back up?
So yeah, it was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and going, you know, sticking with our topic today, that's why I said, like, this show just reminded me of how much potential they had to do so much. And, well, you know, in my opinion, what has been the problem for a long time is they just don't know how to execute. They don't know how to get the talent across the goal line, so to speak. And it's frustrating.
They don't put any extended thought into things. It's always get to the next pay-per-view or whatever the case may be. There's no planning of any sort. It's very fly by the seat of their pants, it seems like.
It was almost like when Seth got hurt, they were like, well, what do we do for our Mania main event now? Right. And Vince looked across the table and went, Hunter can go, let's do it.
Right. Yeah.
And that was it. That was the end of
2 months. Yeah, in 2 months, that was the best idea they had come up with.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, yeah, that was the Royal Rumble 2016. So.
Yeah, I think long term it's going to be remembered as AJ. It's going to be the Rumble where AJ debuted, and that's it. Like I think they were going for. Oh, you remember the time the title was on the line, and No, it's going to be that's the one when AJ debuted.
Because everyone holds 92 in such high regard, which was the other time where the title was up for grabs in the Royal Rumble.
But it wasn't being defended. I should have said it was defended in the Rumble.
Right. Yeah.
Where do you rank this all time?
It's somewhere in the middle. Like I don't
think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to go through and rank, 30 at this point, 30 some odd Royal Rumbles, but yeah, it's not. It's probably in that middle 10. It's not in the top 10. It's not in the bottom 10. It's probably somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
So
overall card or just the Rumble itself?
Just the Rumble itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, if you're talking the Rumble itself, I might put this in the bottom third tier.
Really?
Of that whole thing. Yeah, just because
I have to go back.
The action in the match too. The action in the match isn't spectacular. There's no real surprises in terms of like feuds or outstanding moments. The Kofi thing's kind of cool, but for the most part, it's kind of a bland Rumble, and it's highlighted by a couple big debut. And
it's one of the few of as well. I mean, in the early days, all the legends were active, but it's one of the few where there's no like legends, entrance, which is always a big, who's gonna show up this year in the Rumble, type thing. That's one thing I look forward to at least the most is, who are they gonna bring back for one more last little pop, so
you could argue that's what they did with Jericho.
Sure. Yeah.
Then went out there and worked for 50 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, he was in there for forever.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So.
Well, appreciate you putting me through that again.
I mean,
let me come on and talk about it.
Could have been a lot worse. You're lucky that WCW Sin didn't win.
Yeah, I wouldn't have accepted the invitation. I would have been busy that day. God bless you for going through Starrcade 2000. That was you're a better man than I.
Oh yes. Well, speaking of, I'll give you what I'm thinking for February. You tell me what you would like to see me do. So I'm Royal Rumble February. No Way Out 2001, which is the Rock versus Angle for the WWF title and the Triple H Stone Cold Steve Austin 3 Stages of Hell.
Yep. There's a really good 4-way. I think is it 3-way or 4-way tag match?
4-way. The tag match. Yeah, I don't.
With the Dudleys and Kane and Undertaker and stuff.
There's a 4-way Intercontinental title match too. That's what I'm thinking. It's Jericho, Benoit, Eddie, and X-Pac.
That's right. Yeah, that match is really, I mean, go figure, right? Yeah. That match is really good too.
Yeah. So there's that, and then also WCW Super Brawl Revenge, the last Super Brawl. The In Your House from '96. I don't remember what the name was off the top of my head, but it's the one with the Brett versus Diesel cage match. The classic. Not everything is about you, MFer story.
Yes.
And then Wrestle War 91, which is a War Games match where I believe Sid Vicious tries to murder Brian Pillman with a
powerbomb. Yep. Yeah. I'm really partial to No Way Out 2001.
I am too.
Austin and Triple H in 2 out of 3 Falls is probably, it's one of my 10 favorite matches ever. I don't know what it is about that match. I've just always loved it. I think it's Austin's best one-on-one like actual wrestling match aside from his stuff with Brett.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And Rock and Angle is spectacular too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't say spectacular. It's a good match from what I remember.
It's good stuff.
So that would be my vote if you're going to take my consideration.
All right. Well, look for that poll on my Twitter at IbanezChris. I'll probably put that up a couple days after I post this video. And yeah, we'll look forward to February. So, Matt, thanks for joining me. And everyone out there, see ya.